for our 40th anniversary by Charles Samuel Russell for my wife Yvonne. It was 52 years ago, July 1931, that I saw Yvonne for the first time. That year she was 11 years old. I was 11 years old, and Yvonne was 7. All I saw Yvonne that day was her bag. She was going down a hill with her mother and sister. I remember that day very well. I was with Mr. Elliott, and he said, "Charlie, look at that woman with them 2 girls going down the hill. Look at them girls' white hair." Yvonne and her sister had hair that was white as snow. Yvonne's mother had come to be with my brother Eddie's wife, Maisie. Maisie was Yvonne's mother's sister. At that time, Maisie was going to have a baby. Who would ever guess that one day Yvonne would be my wife? Time passed, and I met Yvonne again. That time I was at her grandmother Bevan's house in St. Albans, Vermont. That day I was visiting the Bevans, and 3 of my brothers were there, Eddie, Delbert, and Ernest. It was in August 1935. I was 16 years old, and Yvonne was 12. One of my brothers said, "There's a pretty girl for you, Charlie." I said, "Hell," I said, I am too old for her. She was just a little girl. The one thing I did agree on was Yvonne was a very pretty girl. 5 years later, I met Yvonne again in April 1940. I met her at my brother Eddie's house. I happened to meet Eddie in Enosburg Falls one night, and I hadn't seen him for a couple of years or more. Eddie had come to buy groceries, and he asked me to go home with him. I was staying at a hotel at the time. I had been drinking all day, and I was feeling no pain. I told him I would not go with him. He told me that he had a 17-year-old girl babysitting at home with Maisie. I told him that's a different story. I went into the store and I brought a case of beer, all quart bottles in one case. And it said, "You damn fool, you have over 6 miles to walk, and that case of beer is going to get heavy before we get home." "Hell," I said, "let's go. I'm not going to take the beer back to the store." We walked a little ways and stopped and had a bottle of beer. "Well," I said, "that'll make the case a little lighter." We did not go far before we stopped to rest. We drank another bottle of beer apiece. Went a little ways and we stopped again, and I had another bottle of beer. By the time we got home, I drank all the beer, all 12 quarts. I guess we were pretty drunk. I sure in hell was. It was very late when we finally got home. Maisie and Yvonne were in bed, and Eddie went to get them up. He introduced me to Yvonne. He said, "This is my niece, Yvonne." I saw a very pretty girl even while I was drunk. I knew she was a beautiful girl. But the next morning I had sobered up some. At the breakfast table, Yvonne sat across from me, and I had just about forgotten the night before, the meeting of the girl. All I said to her was, "Can you tell me your name?" After breakfast, I left to go back to work, but for some reason I could not get that pretty girl out of my mind. All I wanted to do was to see her again and again. Then it happened. Eddie came to where I was working one day, and he asked me if I wanted to go on a picnic with him and his family. He said he would also have Yvonne with him. Well, right away I told him yes, I would go. It was a Sunday when we went on the picnic May 26, 1940. We went to Franklin Pond. That day I was dressed in white everything. Shoes, pants, shirt, hat, everything was white. Except my tie, and that was bright green. We had a good time that day. My white outfit was one hell of a mess from all the running around in the woods chasing Yvonne, playing games. Before we left to go home, I managed to sneak a little kiss, and right after I did that, Yvonne's face turned as red as a beet, and then some. I asked her out for a movie that night. She told me I had to ask her parents. I had a friend who had a car to take us out, but her parents would not let her go alone. I had to take her sister along. While we were out seeing a movie, I managed to get another kiss, but it was seeing us. I guess I was the only boy that she had ever been gone out with. Boy, was she shy. After I took Yvonne home, I asked her for another date for the next weekend, Saturday night. All that week I was on cloud 9. I just could not wait till weekend to come. I wanted to see that beautiful girl again. That week I had some new clothes. I came in from Montgomery Ward, the blue suit, and some other clothes that I had ordered. Mrs. Elliott said, "Charlie, you are going to get married to that girl. took out last week. I told her like hell I am. I only took that girl out once, and anyway, I'm only 20 years old, and no girl is going to get me yet. I guess Mrs. Abbott knew that I was in love with Yvonne. I had been on cloud nine all week long. She asked me if I was going to go and see Yvonne again. I said, yeah, you bet I am. We're going to a dance Saturday night. Well, Saturday night finally came, which I thought never would. Again, I had asked her parents if I could take her to the dance, and again I had to take her sister along. That night wasn't a total loss. I managed to get a kiss on the way home. Yvonne told me that she would be over to my brother Eddie's place on Sunday. She had a mile to walk to get to Eddie's house. I had a good 5 miles to walk. I met her that day and we got to know each other a little bit better. I had turned 21 a few days before her. Well, we would meet every other night after that at Eddie's. Maze and Eddie kept her secret. They did not tell her parents what we were doing. On the night we met, I would try to get my work done as early as I could. But some nights I wouldn't even eat dinner. I had 5 miles to walk, and then if I didn't eat, I would have more time to spend with my girl. I went and see her all kinds of weather. Hell, it would rain and let it. I would go anyway. Sometimes I would get home and not until the next morning, about 1 or 2 in the morning. I had to be to work by 4 in the morning. I would not get much sleep on those nights out. I visited with Yvonne for about a month, and one Sunday I had the day off, so I went to see Yvonne at her parents' place. Yvonne's father asked me if I would work for him. Hell, he didn't have to ask me twice. Right away, I told him I took him up on his offer. I didn't even ask him how much money I was supposed to get. I did not care. All I wanted was to be with my girl. That very same day, I went and got my post at the Elbow Farm. I did not give them any notice that I was leaving. Well, I finally didn't have all those miles to walk every week like I was doing. I could be my girl every night. Once I was there, we didn't care about go to shows or dances. Because after I started to work for her father, we were together every night. Her parents were very strict. Oh, hell, they would watch us. They were just like hawks at times. If we went anywhere, her sister would tag along. And about a month later, I asked Yvonne to be my wife. I told her she had 2 weeks to give me an answer. One day I asked her to marry, I didn't have $1 in my pocket. Hell, I didn't care. Money wasn't everything. Yvonne was. I started dating girls when I was about 18. I never had a steady girlfriend. If I went out with a girl, we only one date now. We'd go to a show or dance. We always had somebody with us. Some of the girls we dated for a little while. They drank, smoked, and swore. They had enough paint on their face to paint a burn. They had powder and lipstick, and God knows what else on their face. Yvonne didn't need that junk on her face. She was to be beautiful. She was already beautiful with her pretty face and her nice figure. She was very shy but young at heart. She had never been out on a date before me. She told me that I was her first boyfriend. She said she sure and hell made a good choice when she picked me. She was just as much in love with me as I was with her. Her parents were very strict. It made my job harder. I had to prove myself at all time. I had to be a nice boy. Sometimes I didn't want to be. I sure loved that beautiful girl. The 2 weeks were finally up, and it was time for an answer on my marriage proposal. I asked Yvonne again. She said yes. That made me very happy. She told me that I had to ask her parents for her hand in marriage. Right away, I asked them if I could marry their daughter. Her father said yes, but the mother kept on saying he was too young to get married. The father told her, hell, mother, let him get married. The next morning, I went to get a marriage license. I remember it was a very hot day. That day, I walked over 30 miles to get the license. Hell, it was worth it. We had to find somebody to marry us, so Yvonne and I walked in Edward Falls about 7 miles to find a minister and set the date for the wedding. We set Labor Day, September 2nd, 1940. We then had to buy a ring. I sent one from Montgomery Ward, and it cost us $4.98. It was 14-karat gold. Yvonne still has that ring on today after 40 years. I asked my brother Clayton if he would be my best man, and Yvonne asked her sister Dot if it should be a maid of honor. The next step was to find someone that had a car to take us to get married. I asked one of my friends, Clifton Lodge, if he had an old car with a room seat in it. He wanted father bought her a dress. It was a pretty blue one. We were all set to get married. All I had for money at that time was $15 even. I gave the minister Clifton $5 for taking us in his car, and I bought the beer with the rest of the money. I sure was broke. I didn't have one penny to my name, but I had something that was a lot better than money, a beautiful wife. We went for a ride in the mountains around Fairfield, Vermont. We had about 5 flat tires, and all that time we were riding around, it was raining some. We were married at 11 o'clock in the morning, but we did not get home until after 5 in the afternoon. We were a mess from changing of tires and rain. Hell, I didn't care if we were wet or dry. I was in love with a lovely wife. That night we had a wedding party, about 30 people. We had a country and western band. The leader of was a friend of mine, Bill LaRush. He didn't charge me anything for the band. There was plenty of booze. We drank and danced and had one hell of a good time. The next day, I had to go to work, but I didn't want to go. I wanted to be with my wife, and that was the only time I could not be with her. I just could not wait for the day's work to end so I could be with my wife. It's always been that way for over 40 years. In that 40 years together, we never had a bad argument. We had some disagreements, but we always settled them with a kiss at the end of each day. We never go to bed without a kiss, no matter what happened during the day. We never called each other names or swear at one another. Like, seriously, only when we're fooling around. We never like to use the bad names at any time. Yvonne never drank or smoked. I would. She didn't like me to do that. It made her unhappy. She would tell me that it made her unhappy. So one thing I never wanted to do was to make my wife unhappy. I did not drink or smoke as often. But at times, in my 40 years, I did get carried away and drank too much. In a couple of years after we were married, we had our first child, a beautiful girl. We named her Nancy Lee. She was born June 28, 1942. Our baby girl made us closer and more in love than we ever been. We had a child to share our life and love with. Boy, how I love that girl. She's now a grown woman, and I have always loved her more than she ever known. Her mother loved her so much too. She looks a lot like my lovely little wife. Nancy Lee has blessed us to 2 grandchildren, Robert and Lori, who we love very much. 4 years after Nancy Lee was born, almost to the day, June 24, 1946, our son Charles Jr. was born. So we had 2 children to love. Charles Jr. has never got married. He is one of the nicest young men around today. He does not drink or smoke, and he is a good worker. He is never in much trouble. We did not have a baby for a long time, and it happened. 9 years after Charles Jr. was born, May 8, 1955, Bonnie Gale was born. She was a beautiful redhead. I wanted another girl, and God gave me one. We almost lost Bonnie at birth. Right after she was born, she got so much water on the lung that she was a very sick baby. She was in the hospital for a month. Before we could take her home, she was now a grown woman. She is married, and she has 2 beautiful red-headed daughters, Melissa Sue and Shannon Marie. 1984, she had Jennifer Lee. We all love our children, Nancy Lee, Charles, J.R., and Bonnie Gale very much, and they all as well. We also love all our grandchildren, Robert, Lori, Melissa, Shannon, Jennifer, just as much. Nothing ever takes the love away from a family, always, almost no matter what happens in our lives. For my children's mother and my grandchildren's grandmother, I have a special love. She has been a wonderful wife, mother, and grandmother. She always been around with a helping hand and a pretty smile on her face at all times. When we were sick, she was always there by our side. When we needed her, she was always there with a pretty smile. That alone made us better. She never let us go hungry. She always had something to eat. If we were in trouble, we tried to help us the best that she could. And again, it was with that pretty smile that made us forget our troubles. Every year that we've been married, it's been now 42 good years. She had gotten prettier and more beautiful than ever. She had the heart as big as all outdoors and then some. It is always saying, Charlie, maybe next year will be better than last year. But our love for one another never will be better than it was in the past years. Hell, I will never have it in any other way. I'm hoping for another 40 years with this wonderful woman. This wonderful, lovely woman is my 21st birthday gift. Every year on my birthday, I look at that beautiful wife and a gift of 40 years, and thank God for giving me this gift, my wife, Yvonne. Here's a little thing I wrote when Yvonne lost her eye. One day, a 16-year-old boy met a beautiful young girl with the most beautiful eyes that he ever had seen. At that time, this bright blue-eyed girl was only 12 years old, and this young boy, he never forgot those bright blue eyes. Years passed, one right after another, and that young man is now 20 years old, and his bright blue-eyed girl now 17. They met again and fell in love. It was a short courtship from May to September. It took over 5 years for this young man to marry his bright blue-eyed girl. After this young man had married his bright blue-eyed girl, they had a family, 1 boy, 2 girls, and they all had green eyes like their father had. The boy never married. These 2 girls, they married and gave this young man, his blue-eyed girl, 5 bright blue-eyed granddaughters, 4 girls, 1 boy. The grandson gave them a grandchild, a boy with bright blue eyes. The blue eyes never will take the place of the mother or grandmother's bright blue eyes. This young man and his bright blue-eyed girl are now getting old. She is more beautiful as she gets older. Her bright blue eyes are the same back when she was 12 years old. Bright blue eyes. This bright blue-eyed woman, her favorite color is blue, like the sky above or the ocean. Always wear blue on her clothes. She wears blue on her wedding day. She wore a pretty blue dress. Her husband's eyes are green. His favorite color is green, like the leaves on a tree and the grass in the field. They both like green and blue, but nothing compared to the bright blue eyes his wife has. On her beautiful face there was always a smile when she sees a bluebird fly in the sky so blue. When she walks down the path to beautiful flowers along the way, her husband sees a smile on her face as they go along the long path. With a beautiful sky above, she sees all this with her bright blue eyes. One winter day, this bright blue girl lost one of her bright blue eyes. It made her husband very sad. He cried and he asked God, why did he take one of the eyes so blue? He thanked God over and over again for not taking the other blue eye. He knew God would not take him to both eyes. He believed God knows he loved his beautiful wife, bright blue eyes. God left him one bright blue eye. Written by Charles, his bright blue-eyed husband, Charles Samuel Russell. Our 40th anniversary party. It was a Saturday afternoon about 1 o'clock. We got a call from our niece Elaine McGrath. She asked us to come over to our house for supper with her family. She told us that supper was going to be around 5 o'clock. When we got to her house, we see a few cars, but no people were anywhere. I told Yvonne that there must be in the house. Just as we opened the door to go inside, everybody got one big yell, surprise. Right in front of us were our 2 daughters, Nancy and Bonnie. They both gave us a hug and a kiss, and my head turned like a top. There were people all around the room. We looked at one person at a time, and there were a lot of people there. The room was all diapered with white and red trimming. There were 2 paper bells hanging from the center of the ceiling. On each bell there was a number 40. There was a big card on over the door, and on the door was a big red name and numbers that read Happy 40th, Charlie and Yvonne. Our children had invited my relatives and friends to come to the party, and that party we had all the children and grandchildren there. Nancy, Butch, Bonnie, and her husband Paul, and Robert, and Laurie, and Melissa, our niece Elaine, her husband Reggie, who owned the house, and their three girls, Janet, Laurie, and Tanya was there. My niece Mona and her husband Bill there, and their three daughters, Karen and Gail, and Mimi were there. Two friends of Bill and Mona came with them from New York, Al and Sue Ballard. Bill and I had a van, and in the back of the van there was a keg of beer, and before I went to meet anybody else, I'd get a glass of beer from the keg. The beer helped to stop my head from spinning, but when I went around to meet the others, to my surprise, I've been a marriage for over 35 years, drove a cash there. My niece Laura and her husband Mark, and some friends with them, Jeff, Jimmy, Sam, Sue, Nancy, and her husband Lance, who came to meet us. They all called me Uncle Charlie, and they called Yvonne and Yvonne. Our son-in-law's parents came, Joe and Marty, also. Some of Bonnie's and Paul's friends were there, Henry, Jerry, Barbara, and Ron. Yvonne and Barbara Bevan were there also. My nephew, Ivan, and his wife, Sandy, and their two boys, Anna and Joy, were there. We had a picture taken. There was a lot of toasts, and our children had a few to say. They did a very good parent, and they loved us very much. Our granddaughter, Laura, recited a wedding song. Our grandson, Robert, had a few nice words to say to us. I had a granddaughter, Melissa, was only 9 months old, but I know that she loves us too. Bill, Mona, Wishes, another 40 years together. Everybody had a nice thing to say. We will never forget that day. Our nieces and nephews and great nieces and nephews and great nephews. For all our friends and their colors, Uncle Charlie and Manny. Just before we left, we opened all the cards, and we saw that they all had money in them. We even had cards from people that couldn't make it to the party. The cards contained money. We had over $200 in all, but money wasn't everything. It was the love that we received that counted the most.